Hi, welcome to the Property Show. I'm Jayashree Kurup. I'm editor MBTV. The new kid on the block was co-working spaces, co-living spaces. It was a trend that was dominating our markets over the last year or so. And now we are in a lockdown situation. So we decided let's get some of the experts in and figure out what is happening in the commercial space, the co-working spaces versus traditional offices. What's going to happen and what is the future ahead of COVID-19? And joining me in this discussion are Pranay Gupta, he's the CEO of 91 Springboard. There's Nikhil Jain, he's director at Riddhi Siddhi Properties, and Thirumal Govindraj, who's the managing director of the RMZ Group. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. And here, let's begin with the shift towards co-working spaces from the traditional office spaces. Govind, why do you think that happened?
See, I think, over a period of time, companies have been growing so fast, okay, and there is a lot of capital which has been moving, because see, the biggest initial cost is, setting up their office, real estate, interior fit outs, and all that. I think companies over a period of time, especially, where they wanted flexibility, where they could look at they could look at where they didn't need to do make the investment, but also had the flexibility of expanding or contracting whenever they needed. See, co-working when they traditionally started with the mind, and keeping in mind that the the startup ecosystem is what is going to get catered. Okay, it's going to be for people who can't afford large, fancy, cool offices. They would be people who would be the largest chunk of co-working users. But as co-working started developing, and it became it you know it like any new business goes through various stages of its growth. The enterprise clients became the more focused customers for co-working. From our perspective, where when we started co-working, we did obviously in the initial days look at the startup culture, but we realized that I think, because of the amount of capital going into the co-working business, I think enterprise and long-term leases where you would have a clear cash flow which is required to run a retail business. It's like any retail. It's like real estate becoming retail. So I think that is where the business has moved to. It's become an enterprise business. I think it's going to be, with COVID-19 coming in, and with all this happening, I think the enterprise business is going to be looking for more flex spaces going forward.
Mhm.
And with us being able to provide both sides of the spectrum, I think it's a good position to be in. It's going to be only, that we won't do small 1 year leases and 2 year leases for enterprises. We'll be looking at more longer leases and more customization for them than what we were doing previously. I think that's the way we are looking at the business for the future, and how the business has metamorphed over the years for us.
Right. Govind, I'm going to come back to you, but I'll
Yeah,
go
sure.
to Nikhil Jain right now. Nikhil, when you talk about the commercial spaces, typically upwards of say 10,000 square feet, what is the kind of demand that you have seen before the COVID situation, and how do you think the COVID is going to change that?
Thanks, Jayashree. The demand for higher spaces, particularly for the plates bigger than 10,000, was pretty high.
Mhm.
And you will surprised to know that today also the requirement has not gone down. Rather, the supply is still challenging in the core areas of, particularly say Pune or the bigger cities where IT companies are working. Rather, the companies with big corporate houses, independent building premises is going up.
Mhm.
The co-working, if I can say, is an added segment to the overall real estate market, but independent working with lot of factors is
Mhm.
still a demand. And yes, this is a temporary pause what we can see in the real estate, but practically speaking, with our experience and current demand and connection with the clients, they are still exploring the good options in the specific pockets of the city.
We have seen that last year we had close to 47 million square feet of space, commercial
Absolutely.
space that was taken up. That's the largest that we've ever had in the country. Uh,
Correct.
that kind of thing, how much more gets supplemented with co-working spaces?
Sorry, can you phrase the question again?
You saw a lot of commercial space offtake happening in the last year and a half or so.
Right.
And is the co-working space in addition to that? Is that what you're saying? That large office spaces are taken and co-working is in addition to that?
Yeah, as I said, co-working is an added segment and facility to some of the companies, and not by and large, because it has its own benefits. I would say it's a luxury segment, unless and until it can be reworked to the economies of what in traditional offices we can get, you know, wherein the cost of per seat is matched. And probably that can happen if co-working spaces are able to occupy their premises for 24 by 7, say in 3 or 4 shifts. Otherwise, if I am a company, I am going and getting a office premises, say for 80 or 90 rupees per square feet. And there are many companies which are coming, the owners are willing to furnish it for a longer period of time. It can be amortized for the lock-in period or so. So my cost per se is not going up. So in co-working, what I'm getting the services added to the real estate, practically speaking.
Yeah. Pranay, who are your large clients and what is the demand for that you are catering to?
Okay. So in our case, we have all variety of clients. Honestly, I agree with Rumal when he said that it started with startups as a focus, but now enterprises, everyone is coming, right? And especially if I talk of now and the post-COVID era, the kind of demand that's already started coming to us is companies, one uh, who are realizing that they're either downsizing or they don't need the kind of office space that they had locked themselves into earlier, and they are coming to us and saying we need a smaller space now, or more importantly, we also need a flexible space because we are not sure how the business will come back up and when will it come back up. The second demand that we've started seeing already are companies where the business is actually working well. They know that they'll need the space they have, but due to the social distancing norms, they won't be now fit in the number of people in their offices. And they are looking for additional offices to be able to accommodate these people. Again, in this case, it in their head, it's a temporary demand. They don't know till when will they need to follow the social distancing guidelines, and they are coming to us. The third set of demand coming to us, interestingly, and again, a lot of enterprises are reaching out for this, is where they've got an experiment of working from home and to that extent, remote working culture they've seen. And they realize it's working pretty okay for them. And the employee who was traveling all the way from Noida to Gurgaon, spending 3.5 hours of travel every day, need not do that. So these companies are coming to us and saying, can we now take, say, a 30-seater space with you in Noida, where our Noida team can come, and maybe once a week they'll come to Gurgaon, but otherwise they can work out of the Noida space. So we are seeing all of this demand come up.
Right. Are you also seeing some of your clients who are unable to pay the rentals and things like that, who have been with you for a while? Is that a problem?
So you're saying clients who are unable to pay rental, and what did you say?
During this lockdown period, are you facing a challenge with rentals?
See, honestly, all of us are. I'm sure the traditional landlords and us, all of us are. And as an industry, we are trying to figure out how to solve it. The broader thought is that there are some fixed costs which all of us have to manage, even in a shutdown office. Something as simple as a basic electricity cost is coming. We are maintaining servers of clients which are installed at our hub and ensuring that it's connected so that they can work from home. The security guards have to be there, etc. So the whole intent is at least ensure that we are charging clients to be able to cover those basic costs. On the other side, whichever of our costs we are able to go ahead and negotiate, convince the, so for example, in our case, landlords is a big cost, right? And going back to our landlord partners, explaining to them the situation and passing all the benefits to the customers. That's what not just us, but all co-working spaces are doing. And I'm sure that's how all the commercial landlords are also handling it.
Right. Govind, when you give this period to the new clients, the clients who are not able to pay their rentals during the lockdown period. Is it a deferment, or is it that you are giving them discounts?
See, see, on the traditional spaces, from I'd like to speak from our portfolio standpoint.
Yeah.
Our portfolio is completely operational. Okay, so we have all our staff on ground, from housekeeping to MEP consultants to security to everything. So the buildings are kept fully functional because there are at least 10 to 12% of all companies have employees coming in shifts at different points of time, because they need to keep their servers running and they need to do whatever service they have to do, because everybody's working from home, loads are high. So we have to ensure that buildings are fully operational. So having said that, we have not given any kind of a break to any of our tenants, because they are all traditional tenants, large leases, large clients. And our smallest client would be around 30,000-40,000 square feet would be our smallest client, and our largest client would be around 1 million square feet, one single client. So having said that, we've already we are already at the end of the month, and we are already collected at almost 90% of our portfolio has paid their rent and their CAM and their utilities, because these are all critical operations. I know the challenge in co-working is different, but from our perspective, there is no abatement or rebate or deferment of rent currently on the portfolio, and nobody is very few have asked. Mostly the smaller guys and guys who just started a month back or 2 months back, because they've not been able to mobilize complete staff. But as of now, nobody has said they will not pay, and as of now, we have not had any discussions with clients telling us that we will give them any kind of a rebate.
What are you doing to maintain the hygiene and the new sanitation measures that are happening in your workspaces?
See, we manage all the common areas, and all our clients manage their interior spaces. So we anyway have our schedules which, cater to all kind of, different aspects of cleaning. So we have our housekeeping staff on ground. We do deep cleaning anyway every month. Now we have made it twice a month. And we are ensuring that, all filters are cleaned more, all our microfilters in the ACs are cleaned more often than they used to be. And we have also, and I think clients themselves, we have clients like Google and all these guys, so they themselves have increased their schedule on cleaning. So I think this started almost 2-3 weeks prior to the lockdown. So because we knew a lot of our clients, their employees travel and come back, so we were more cautious. As soon as this whole thing the outbreak started, we ensured that we were checking temperature, we were asking clients, and clients had also already started quarantining their employees who were coming back to India in the beginning of March. So a lot of that cycle had already started, and I think that's the reason why we've been able to control a lot of the environment within our parks. And the advantage we have large independent. It's not independent standalone buildings. These are large parks. Each park is starting at around 1.2 million, going up to around 8-9 million. So the environment is more contained. We have control over the environment, and we've been able to manage the environment really well. So I think that's really paid off for us during the lockdown. And we've ensured that we have staff on site and they're staying there. We provide for them, and we don't let them go home and come back every day. So that's also something which has been really helpful for us.
Okay. Pranay, how are you managing with the new hygiene protocol?
Sure. So in our case, right now the buildings are closed, but we do ourselves proactively installed our own protocols to maintain hygiene much before, like during the initial times of COVID, when the social distancing itself was recommended. We had ensured everything from temperature check for anyone coming in, guidelines to our members on avoiding guests, avoiding deliveries, etc. We shut down some basic services which were generally common and which led to a lot of aggregation of people. So for example, if we had a cafe, we shut that and we asked our members to eat at the desk to avoid that. We also had all cleaning protocols in place, so ensuring that all surfaces are cleaned at every 2-hour period. And also we had basically ensuring that sanitizers are present everywhere, etc. So we implemented all of that. I looked at the guidelines that were released by government a couple of days before about how to have workspace ready. The guidelines we put ourselves earlier are honestly, I think, more stringent than that. But our team is looking through them, and we will ensure that that and more, that whatever is needed is done before we open the space and we set that up.
Nikhil, most commercial leases have a force majeure clause, right?
Right.
Do you see a lot of them invoking that right now? Are you having to mediate between the landlords and the occupants about invoking these? Because
Yeah.
some of the lawyers have told us that they have started working on some of these clauses in commercial contracts.
Yeah. More interestingly, this is the most happening topic in real estate where leasing is being done. So, as you said rightly, we have also started intermediating between the landlord and the tenants and finding out a solution. Depending upon the requirement, nature of work, it varies a lot. There is no thumb rule which is set. Of course, this is, according to me, falls under force majeure clause because you are not able to go to your office, utilize the services, all those things.
Mhm.
But still, we need to understand from the landlord's perspective as well. They have their EMIs and other things going on, and they have this investment dependent on the tenant's rental income. So there has to be an equilibrium which needs to be set. Of course, if we are talking specifically about offices, in retail, if I say it is completely waived off because the business is entirely dependent upon the footfalls and all this stuff. In offices, yes, there are certain areas where you can work from home or with lesser utilization of the office space. But saying all those things, the landlord need to compromise. They have to, adjust with the client's requirement per se. If their revenues are lost, how they would pay, they need to understanding and making a balance between how they can going forward adjust their interest and EMIs with their lenders.
Right. I'm going to bring that conversation, Nikhil's conversation, back to the two landlords here. How do you think that this piece is going to play out in the next few months? Because it's the largest economic downturn the world has ever seen in the last 100 years. So it's even if you haven't had any defaults right now or any requests, there is such likelihood that even the largest clients are going to come back to you and try and renegotiate. Govind, what do you do to
See,
prepare
I
for
think, first of all, the COVID-19 pandemic doesn't fall under the force majeure clause. There is no cover under pandemic for force majeure.
Yeah.
Okay, the force majeure clause basically is what does it say? It says that in case you are not able to access your building because the building is not accessible, then it becomes a force majeure clause. Here, the buildings are accessible. You have governments are providing passes. People are coming to work. Building is operational. If today I don't let anybody come into my building and say, "Listen, you have no access to building," then I understand. But we have gone with we have gone to multiple large law firms across India and in other markets, and we have got opinions from them, and all of them have said that the force majeure clause does not get involved in a pandemic situation because it's not covered. I'm sure going forward, people are going to try and bring that in as a force majeure clause, but as of now, it's not covered. And also, a lot of the clients, other than maybe the smaller guys who are doing work which is very, very specific to maybe, their dependencies are on the larger tenants, they may have an issue. Luckily, our portfolio does not have that kind of client base. So most of our clients are captive. They're all driving their businesses for their larger companies across the globe. So I don't see them shutting down the businesses across. So they're all working from home. If they're working from home and they're accessing the server in my building, then and if they're going to get paid for doing the job, then we need to get paid for maintaining the buildings and running the premises. So I don't see, people can try and hide behind the force majeure clause, but I don't think it's something which is going to stand. And see, the force majeure clause was also very clear. Either you rectify. If you don't rectify, you have a choice to terminate. So, and I don't think anybody wants to terminate. So if you don't want to terminate, you just can't not pay rent here. you know, it's something which, as a landlord, that's our only business. It's not like, we get other sources of income. So I think the smaller guys are going to try and use the force majeure clause, but the larger guys understand it, because the legal firms across in the globe and across India are saying that it's not, you can't use rent abatement or rent deferment under. There are smaller landlords who may agree because they have to, but on the larger, whoever we have spoken to, all the large players across the country, nobody has come back and said that they're going to take the force majeure clause as a deferment of rent.
Pranay, what about you?
Yeah. So, Jayashree, I think honestly, the force majeure clause, you talk to 5 legal firms and they give you 5 opinions, and a lot of times I think the opinion is also on basis of who you talk to, right? So, let me not comment on that. It is somewhere where our interpretation, honestly, is a bit different from what we just heard. But I'll tell you how we are genuinely approaching it, right?
Yeah.
I do feel legal terms and legal issues come in when the regular conversation doesn't work. And the fair thing to do is to be transparent, to explain the issues to your clients, explain the issue to your partners, and work out solution. And that's what we are really doing, right? So if clients are not able to come to building, either because the building is closed, alternately because there's a lockdown and they're not allowed to, etc., then we are trying to figure out how we can solve it for them. We are also going to them and explaining it to them that, see, in all of this, we do have some basic costs. And when you come back to the building, if you need it to be running, we need to cover those, right? And 80% of our clients have already supported us with that cost. On the other side, when we are talking to landlord partners, honestly, we are not going legal on them. What we are going and explaining to them is, see, here is a real situation. We are your partners, right? Like you said, 2 landlords on this call. Honestly, I think you have 1 landlord. We are partners with the landlords, where we create a layer upon them to ensure that the space gets utilized better and it becomes a win-win situation for landlords and us and the client. All of this we take to the landlord partner of ours, and we are explaining to them that, see, we have been great where we have been paying you regularly since earlier. We made the whole building so vibrant. We explain to them and we can show them how the moment things open up, this industry is something which will pick up very fast. Co-working is something, it's going through a big impact right now, but it will also pick up very fast, right? And if they can continue supporting us and partnering with us, it's great for them in long run too, right? And those are the kind of conversations we are having. We are not going legal first in our conversations.
Nikhil, we briefly referred to this disaggregation of workspaces, where instead of having a whole workforce move from different parts of the city to one place, now companies are trying to see whether they can have smaller regional spaces where the workforce does not have to travel very far, or because the work from home is also proving to be quite effective. Are you going to see a lot of this happening?
Sorry, Jayashree, I think there is some problem in the connection. I'm getting your voice is lower voice.
Can I repeat the question? Are you going to see disaggregated workspaces where companies take workspaces in different parts of town, especially in cities like Bangalore and Gurgaon and so on, where there is a lot of traffic jam, people spend a lot of time on the roads? Are you going to see that the amount of commute that their employees have to make to reach workspaces is going to come down? Disaggregated workspaces.
See, this is already on the cards of the companies, something which is not getting started now, because this is a regular phenomena wherein for a work, from the employee's perspective, you are losing a lot of productive hours. So it is in the interest of employees as well as the company owners to provide them good infrastructure closer to their residences and vice versa. That is the reason the big townships are coming into the picture. Say, for example, in Hinjewadi, a lot of residentials are coming up. In Magarpatta also we can see SEZ. So similar concept is already on the cards, if, as I said already, and people in totality they want to have their working close to their houses so that commuting is saved, lot of natural resources are saved, and the cost is also can be brought down per se, because it is, if it is at different parts of the city, the real estate every 100 meter the cost goes, it is a different cost. So more closer to their office, they would be more productive at lesser cost to the company. So as I said, this is already a phenomena which is happening, but slowly. After this thing, it may be this COVID-19 situation can be catalyst to this particular activity.
Right. One of the things that when the government announced how the lockdown is going to be eased and how work will start, one of the things they said is that within SEZs, if the consumers are working, employees are working in a certain building, they should not have to travel back to their workspaces. They can be contained in those buildings in that area. Here, SEZs and so on will work very well, won't it, Govind?
Yes, this is
Uh,
working very well in the common interest
yeah.
for the society as well as for the individual
Yeah.
at macro
Uh,
level.
Pranay, are you going to see people working in shifts, because you can't have the entire workforce in one place for some time now, and you are going to see a thinner kind of occupancy on each of your floors? Are you going to see people working in shifts? Are you planning for that?
So honestly, we are right now talking to all our clients to understand how they are planning to utilize the space once things open up. If you ask me, I don't see people working as much in shifts. Okay. So if what we are saying is shift in the sense 3 shifts a day, morning, evening,
That's right. That's
probably
right.
not.
Yeah.
Because running shifts also means that you need to have managers in the same shift, etc. Right? And the companies which have systems in place to run shifts are companies which need to run it. So BPOs, they've been running in shift, they'll continue running in shift. But for a regular tech company to shift into shifts is not as easy. What you will end up seeing is, at least in the ease-in period, you'll see the alternate day shifts kind of shifts. So you might have the tech team and the product team coming on a certain day, and the next day you'll have the sales team coming in. Everyone works on an everyday basis, but they come to office on an alternate day basis. So you might see things like that.
Govind, are you going to see a shift, because a lot of people have been working from home and efficiently at that? Are you going to see a change in the amount of space that companies require, or is it a very temporary phenomenon?
See, actually, the work from home has been there for some time. It's not a new phenomenon. A lot of banks and a lot of IT companies have been doing it. So, everybody gets an opportunity to work 1 day or 2 days from home. So it's not something new. But I think the biggest challenge we face is the quality of infrastructure and data security, which is what most companies are worried about. Clients, employees working from home, how is their security, what are they doing, are they only spending time on the company's work, or are they doing something else? So these are challenges which people are going to face. You can't keep them 100% engaged right through the day. So I think it is, now it's happening because they don't have a choice. And in an environment like this, everybody is, they're trying to ring fence their employees as much as they can. So, so I think in India, keeping the quality of our, IT infrastructure, power at home, amount of power fluctuation which keeps happening. You can't have people telling, no, I don't have power, or my laptop's drained out, or, my Wi-Fi is not well connected. So, so I think those challenges will bring back people back to the office. I think we will see, one is maybe they will start working in shifts, or they may also look at their complete office plan. Today everybody is moved to an open office plan. Is the open office plan the best thing to be in today? Is something they may relook at it. They may try and, and a lot of companies have moved from 100 square feet per person to 70, 80. and there are companies who moved, to numbers as low as 60 and 50%, depending on the kind of business they do. So that may change. So if that changes, requirements may go up or may come down. So it's still crystal glazing. We can't say that what's going to happen, but looking at all the parameters and over the years, what we have seen, in how the business has evolved. We've been doing this for the last 20 odd years. So how things have evolved, how trends have changed. I think we'll have a clearer picture in the next 5 to 6 months. I think economies in the US and Europe need to start consuming again. Once they start consuming, obviously, growth's going to come here. I think today India is very highly dependent on the US economy for all the growth which is coming to India. I think Europe is a large market which we are still is very, I would say, very marginally explored for India from a back office perspective. So I think there is going to be a lot of change. I think there is going to be a lot of fear psychosis with employees also. So I think keeping that in mind, obviously people are going to be thinking on how they're going to redo their offices, or how they're going to build their new offices going forward.
Right. And finally, the last question: are we going to see a difference in costs of occupancy? Clearly, the world is under pressure. World economies are under pressure. Will they be able to manage so much? No matter how big you are, it is not a small economic downturn that we're seeing. While governments are infusing funds, the companies are still under stress. So, are you going to see any change in the cost structures of commercial spaces? Govind?
So when you say cost structure, you say, there are two cost structures. One is employee costs and one is fixed, operating and real estate costs. So for most companies, the largest costs are, salary, it's basically, salaries plus operations plus your real estate costs. So real estate cost is any 20% is where it comes for large clients. So I think, see, today, if you look at with the dollar sliding to 76, I think there has been a huge arbitrage for these guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think nobody is looking at that from that itself, there's a huge cost saving for these companies which are in India doing work. So, if you take that arbitrage and you take the cost of land and cost of, brick and mortar in India, I don't see people having any kind of leeway to reduce rents. Maybe, you may see rents flattening out than increasing, because over the last couple of years, we have seen rents going up by 15-20% as supply is going up and demand is going up. But I think that may flatten out a bit. But I still feel that the arbitrage is pretty high for these companies coming in. So, hoping for the best and being more positive to the whole situation. I think as long as it doesn't go down and it stays flat and goes up, we are more than happy to continue doing what we're doing.
Right. Pranav, what are your fears? Are rents going to come down? Is there going to be a pressure on rents?
I think the nature and the style of costs will have a massive impact. So the whole thought around having a fixed office with a lease of at least 3 years, I'll grow into that. I have a predictability to business for a long term. A lot of those will change, and you'll see people shifting from fixed cost to variable cost.
Mm-hmm.
What it also means is it's very hard to say whether rent will come down or not, because now it won't be an apple-to-apple comparison.
Yeah.
I do agree with Govind that the real estate cost, or for that matter, to be able to work in a co-working space, that's a very minor cost for a company in comparison to the human HR cost, right? And any company trying to cut corners on providing a good, well-managed, efficient, and also most importantly, a safe office space to their team, and trying to cut corners, it just doesn't make sense for them, right? That's what we saw even before this, right? We were seeing a trend to shift to that. I think the smarter companies will understand that even if it means a slightly higher bill, but if they're able to, say what Google does, right? They're able to hire the best people and retain them, partly also because they have these amazing infrastructure and convenience that they give to their employees. And I think you'll see a lot more of that happening rather than anything else.
Nikhil, do you think there are a lot of commercial office space investors who always thought that the return on investment was much higher in commercial spaces? Do you expect that to continue? Do you expect that to fall? How do you see that market investment in commercial real estate?
See, it will definitely have an impact, but I see it as a temporary effect because the real estate cost is not going to go down for n number of reasons. Let it be the labor cost, the cost of construction, the land cost, taxes, all said and done, the cost would remain high for the landlords to purchase it. And in turn, the rentals would always remain higher. So ROI is going to be challenging for the investors. If we say the investors, the currently between 6 to 8% what we are getting, unless the ticket size is quite high, above 100 CR and all that, and depending upon the seller and the portfolio of the tenants there. So definitely there going to be a pause in this market because you have to see if there are forwarding contracts for those investors. They do invest depending upon the rental incomes coming in. So investor would surely like to see what kind of negotiations are happening, how the business environment in total are going to change or they are going to maintain the same. The growth certainly is not what we can see in current period of time, at least for a year or so. Sustaining is more important for all the companies. So if they are able to sustain, then they will go and play a safe bet, because the question or the drawback with real estate is that it's a liquidity.
Right.
Today, if you invest and tomorrow, if you want to liquidate, it's going to be difficult. And the current scenario adds more hurdles to it. So for definitely an investor of any size would like to for some time and see the situation.
Right.
And they would not lose because the cost will not go up for purchasing. It will remain constant for certain period of time. So your return versus your investment would always be the same if you want to enter today or say after 6 months down the line. But you may be in a better position to take a conscious call.
So it's not all gloom and doom in the commercial real estate space. The players expect the market to hold. They expect the market to remain stable and till the entire COVID situation eases out. For the investor, it is very important that you understand the market, you keep a watch on the market, how it's performing and how it's progressing.
Absolutely.
And for large players, yeah.
Sorry, I said absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, and in that scenario, it's a market that has traditionally yielded good returns on your investment, and it is a market that has come of age in the Indian marketplace. You have seen a very large take-up of commercial space, and this is a space that we will be watching out for, and we urge each one of our consumers to keep watching this space. Thank you so much for watching the Property Show. And
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Pranay.
Thank you all of you. Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care.